We started this maamar last week, and the maamar was a Hasidic interpretation of an episode in Tanakh. A woman comes to the prophet Elisha, cries to him saying that my husband has died, he was a prophet, he's dead, and the creditors have come and they're threatening to take away my 2 sons as slaves. So Elisha says, how can I help you? What have you got in the house left? She says, I've just got a jar of oil. He says, go and borrow empty vessels from all your neighbors as much as you can. Pour the oil into the empty vessels and do this behind closed doors. And so she does it, comes back to the prophet and says that she's done it. What she did is she went and got a bunch of empty vessels, she poured the oil, and as she poured, the more she poured, the more oil came, filled up all the vessels until there were none left. And so the prophet tells her, okay, now go sell the oil, pay back the creditor, and you and your sons will live off the extra oil that you still have left over. You'll be able to live off it, you'll be able to survive. So Alter Rebbe explains that all the characters in this story represent something. There is the woman, there's the prophet Elisha, there's the creditor, there are her sons, there are the empty jars, there's the oil that she's got left, there's the oil pouring into the jars, and there's the extra that's left over after she's paid back her creditor. All these things represent things. What do they represent? So she, the woman herself, represents the soul, the nefesh elokis, the divine soul. The Veisha Achas, the one woman, the soul that is one with Hashem, cries out to Elisha, which is God, Hashem, who answers, who turns to our prayers, and says that I've lost my fire, my burning passion for godliness, which is my husband. I'm not inspired anymore. I don't have a love and a passion for Hashem. I'm flat, numb, uninspired. And so Hashem says to the soul, okay, so what have you got left? And so she says that not only I'm uninspired, but the creditor has come to take away my 2 sons, the nefesh bahamis, that makes me forget, that is here to make me forget who I am, wants to take my 2 sons, which is my emotional faculties of love and fear, and to misappropriate them towards the animalistic side of life. That's what's happening. So the prophet says, what have you got left in the house? What is left in your personality that the nefesh bahamis, the animal soul, has not overtaken? And she answers, the soul says, all I've got left is the jar of oil. The essence of the soul, the spark of Jewishness, the fact that I'm a Jew, that's all I've still got. Nothing else. So Hashem says to the soul, okay, so now we've got something to work with. You still know that you're Jewish, you still have a connection to your Jewishness. It's not practical at the moment. This is what you need to do. Gather as many empty vessels as you can, which means do mitzvahs, learn Torah. It's going to be empty, without any feeling, but force yourself to do it anyway. As much as you can. And pour into those empty vessels the oil that remains, which means the way you have to do those mitzvahs, even though they're empty, you have to do it with the essence of your soul, with the oil, that essence of your soul. Meaning, why are you doing the mitzvah? Not because you feel like doing it, not because you're in the mood of doing it, not because you understand why you should do it. You're doing it because you're Jewish, and a Jew has to do mitzvahs. A Jew cannot not do mitzvahs. So just like a Jew who's empty of mitzvahs, if you go up to them and say, okay, you're not Jewish anymore, they'll say, of course I am. And if you threaten them and tell them, why don't you give up being Jewish? They would say, no, they would be able to be moser nefesh. They'd give themselves up rather than give up their Jewishness. They'd give up their life rather than give up their Jewishness. So too, we should do a mitzvah. When you don't feel inspired, do the mitzvah, because this is how Jewishness is expressed. This is how you express being Jewish. Even though you're not in the mood of it, you don't feel like doing it. Do it with the essence of your soul. And then, if you do that, so then you and your sons will live off the extra. Meaning that you, the essence of the soul itself, as well as your sons, your emotions will live, will be revived. Your feelings will come back because of the extra, because of the new energy that is created as a result of the darkness that you went through. That's the bit we're up to now, and that's what we'll have a look at. We're on the second line of the page, Mem Daled. So Mem Daled is the back of the front page. The second line is brackets. So the brackets explain what does it mean to do the mitzvahs, empty vessels full of oil. You should put oil into the empty vessels. It says in Tanya that when we keep Torah and mitzvahs, we should do it in such a way that we remember constantly our willingness to give up our lives for Hashem. The Mesiras Nefesh is the essence of the soul. Meaning, you can do a mitzvah because you feel like doing it. Then you can do a mitzvah because that's what you have to do. You couldn't do otherwise. That's a mitzvah from the essence of the soul. So just like you couldn't not be Jewish, so it wouldn't be possible, it's just not an option for you. So too, you can think that I cannot not do a mitzvah, because a mitzvah is being Jewish. So even though I don't feel like doing it, but that's what a Jew does. That's what a soul naturally does.
Question. Can it wait? Can I say it?
Yes.
Can I wait? So isn't it, that saying that we say that a Jew is like full of mitzvahs, like as you open a pomegranate, we're full of hidden mitzvahs. We're doing mitzvahs anyway, whether we like it or not, whether we're conscious of it or not. So how is doing more mitzvahs? That saying is saying
an empty Jew is full of mitzvahs. Meaning somebody who does do mitzvahs does do plenty of mitzvahs. Somebody who does no mitzvahs, and if they tell you I don't do any mitzvahs, there are plenty of mitzvahs they do.
Right.
They do tzedakah, they do kindness, there are plenty of things they do without even realizing that it's mitzvahs. That's a separate thing. Here we're talking about avodas Hashem, a connection with Hashem.
Okay, but you're saying to Hashem, you have to do mitzvahs, but we're already doing mitzvahs whether we realize it or not. That's
but here it's saying do as many mitzvahs as you can. Not to be an empty Jew doing the minimum mitzvahs that an empty Jew has, but do as many mitzvahs as you can. Actively be involved in mitzvah observance to renew your connection with Hashem.
Okay.
Go out and do mitzvahs. And so then after the brackets, if you do this, if you fill your life with mitzvahs and you do them with oil, fill them with oil, which is Mesiras Nefesh, then you and your children will live off the extra. Now, it's called extra here. So the Alter Rebbe explains, what does it mean extra? Why is the oil that you live off called the extra? Meaning the extra, like the extra light that is generated through overcoming darkness. Right? There's a principle that you can have light when it's light, you can have light in the darkness. And light in the darkness is more powerful, it has an extra energy than light within light. That when light overpowers darkness, that is even more powerful than light in the light. Right, in the middle of the day you turn the light on, okay, the light brings light, but how much light? But in the middle of the darkness when you turn the light on, that light is even more powerful.
But it's not really more powerful, it's just our perception of it is more powerful.
Well, you need more light in the dark than you do in the day. So if you're sitting in the room in the daytime and you can't read because it's dark, so a little light will be enough. But if you're sitting in a room in the dark, in the middle of the night, and you need light to read, you need more light to light up darkness than you do in the daytime. So the darkness arouses, calls for, demands more light. So light in darkness is great. So here as well, because you had a darkness of uninspiration, and to overcome it, you went through this whole process of arousing the essence of your soul, that light that you create will cause your inspiration to come back in a greater way than had you not gone through this whole thing, this whole darkness. So therefore, your children will live. Your emotions will come back alive. We're going to go into that deeper in a minute, but that's the interpretation. Now on the fourth line, V'oid pirush b'kelim reikim al tamiti. There's actually a second interpretation that the Alter Rebbe offers to the part of the story that it says that the solution to your lack of inspiration is to gather as many vessels, empty vessels as you can. There's another technique now. Here's another piece of advice. How to get out of your lack of inspiration? By gathering empty vessels. The first one was empty vessels meant mitzvahs that are empty because they're not inspired. Here's a second interpretation. And that's this, fifth line. Sheyisboinen harba ech shukli reikon bli das b'moich or bli d'chilur chimo. You should contemplate a lot. Go deep into a meditation, a contemplation on the fact that you are an empty vessel. Without any awareness in your mind, and without any feeling of love or fear of God in your heart. You should deeply contemplate on your emptiness, your own lack of divine awareness in your mind, that you have your mind is not occupied with divine, and your heart is empty and devoid of feelings towards Hashem. Contemplate on that itself. Deeply contemplate on it. Meditate on that fact. And you should develop within yourself a disappointment in yourself that you've got so far, that you're so uninspired, that you're so unspiritual. It should bother you that you're so empty. And through that itself, the light of your soul will come back, will illuminate you.
What do you do through introspection on that point?
On the very fact that you're uninspired. Meditate on that. Meditate to the point where it really bothers you that you're so uninspired, that you are the empty vessel. In this version, you're the empty vessel. So gathering as many empty vessels as you can means contemplate as much as you can on your own emptiness, on your own lack, on your distance from Hashem, to the point where it bothers you, it breaks you up, you get upset about it, and that feeling of disappointment in yourself will open up your heart to feeling the light of the soul again. How so? Let the maamar explain it. Like there was a teaching that's quoted in the Zohar, and this Zohar is quoted in Tanya, that the head of the academy in Gan Eden, in the Garden of Eden, where they study Torah, the head of the academy, the Rosh Yeshiva, taught the following lesson. If you have a log in a fire, but the fire is not catching onto the log. The log, you have this huge thick log in the fire, and the log is not going alight. It's not catching a fire. So what do? You have to splinter it up. It's too thick to catch on to the fire. Anyone knows this was built a bonfire? You get a big log. You think you're very excited. You got a big log to put onto the bonfire. It's going to really help. You put on the log, and not only it doesn't catch a light, it starts to put out the fire. So what do you need to do? Splinter it up. It's too thick, and so the fire can't catch onto it. But by smashing up that log, the log becomes more receptive to the fire. So too, says the head of the Mesifta of the yeshiva in Gan Eden, Gufad le'salak ben nahora, a body that does not allow the nahora de nishmas, the light of the soul, to illuminate it, it has to be splintered. The salak ben nahora, and then the light will catch on to the body. Meaning, here body doesn't mean the physical body literally. What it means is our physical presence, our ego, or our nefesh bahamas even. If you're in a state of uninspiration, why is that? That's because your body, your bodily self, your physical presence has overcome your soul. So the light of your soul is naturally inspired. The light that your body is a blockage to that inspiration. So why are you uninspired? Because your body, with your physical desires and the distractions of this world, have got in the way of the light of your soul. That's why you're uninspired. It's because you're distracted by this world. So you're like a big fat log that has been dumped on a fire, and the fire can't catch on to the log. Why? Not because there's something wrong with the fire. The fire is fine. The fire is a good, hot fire. The log is too thick to allow the fire to catch onto it. So too, why are you not inspired? Why are you not feeling the light of your soul? Why is your soul not burning with a passion? Because there's something wrong with your soul? No, your soul is fine. It's that your body, your ego, that is getting in the way. You're so full of self, you're so thickly involved in self and in the physical, that there's no chance of the fire to catch on to your log. So what do you need to do? Just like the log needs to be splintered up, so too, you need to break your ego a little bit. You need to smash your complacency. You need to break it down, and that will draw the light of the soul into yourself, into your being. And so how do you do that? When it's a log, you know what to do. You've got a log, so you need an axe to smash it up. When it's your ego that's blocking the light of the soul, so what do you need to do? How do you smash that up? by contemplating on this itself. Look at what a big zhlab I am. That I've got this beautiful soul that has this burning fire, and it's being blocked by my complacency, by my ego, by my self-centeredness. How empty am I? I'm so full of myself that I'm completely empty. By shaking yourself up a bit, by shaking up your complacency, that shatters the ego. And by shattering the ego, you allow a ray of the soul to shine through, and you catch a light. Your inspiration comes back. So this is a second interpretation of what it means to gather empty vessels. Contemplate on your own emptiness. Let the fact that your mind and your heart are devoid of godly fire, that itself should disappoint you, should shake up your complacency, and by shaking yourself up, it breaks a hole in the ego and allows the light of the soul to come back. Not only that, this light, the light that you generate now, that shines as a result of your disappointment in yourself because of your own emptiness, the light that you generate then, has an even greater value to it than the light that would have shone had you not had this whole process. Meaning, if you would have been inspired in the first place, and your ego would not have got in the way, and you would not have had to shatter the ego to allow the light of the soul to come, the light then would not be as powerful as the light that you've now generated through this entire process of shattering the ego and allowing the light of the soul to shine. Like the light, the advantage of light that comes as a result of darkness. Like we said earlier, when there is darkness that you need to illuminate, the light is even more powerful. So because you've gone through this process of digging deeper within yourself, shattering that complacency, that creates a greater, more energetic light. And that's what it means in the story, back with the woman and the prophet, when the prophet says, you and your sons will live on the extra, what does it mean? Atu etzem neshama. You is the essence of the soul. And your children are the love and fear of the soul. You'll live off the extra, meaning that you'll be inspired, your inspiration will come back because of the extra. Because of the extra light that is generated through conquering darkness.